going on, everybody? April 27th, 2023. Just up here on a roof at a very large church here in Salisbury, Maryland. We got a blower wheel, a shaft, and 2 bearings to do today. So here's our patient here. She's older. I think she's from 2005. Well, these older York units use this numeric alphabetic code, but I think it's from 2005. So when I did a PM on this unit not long ago, I found that it had a tore up bearing, and then the bearing had tore up the shaft. So we're going to pull all that out of there today and get it replaced. Stay tuned. All right, here's our wheel. I ain't supposed to do that. Yep, this thing makes a hell of a racket when it's running. So whenever that happens, I like to replace everything. So we're gonna put two new pellet block bearings, new wheel, new shaft. All I gotta do is get that pulley off there. All right, let's get the show on the road. All right, we got our belt off here. So what we're gonna want to do, we're gonna have to take this off. We're gonna have to take our motor off here. Here's our motor. We're gonna have to take this bracket off here so we can get the top off. And actually, we're probably gonna have to take all this out. Have to take this whole thing and bring it out. So we'll probably have to take this support beam out. All right, let's work on getting this motor off. All right, we got our motor off. I'm just gonna let it lay right there. No sense in trying to get it outside the unit. And I severely underestimated the weight of that motor because it was heavy. But all right, we're gonna get this bracket off here. Hopefully that's the only one I gotta take off. And I should be able to get all the screws out and be able to get that thing out of there. All right, guys, we got most of our screws taken out. Got them all taken out underneath here, all up the side here, which I had to get them from this side. And so all we have to do is take these couple screws out and this thing will drop. So this isn't that heavy, but I still don't want it to fall and damage other stuff. So let's get this out of the way. Get our screws out of the way. That one's still connected. All right. So we got 3 more screws to take out and this thing will come out. So that's what we're gonna do next. So instead of unwiring this whole harness and creating a ton of work for myself, I just cut this here. I'll fix that back once we get done, but I had to do what I had to do. I wasn't prepared to unwire every bit of this, and York they're assholes for sending all those wires through there, but whatever. I cut it, got the wires out. I'll fix it back. Not a big deal. All right, let's get those last couple screws out and get this thing out of here. And she's out. There it is. That's the old one. Here's our hole where it was. So what I like to do whenever I do a blower assembly is I like to look and inspect where it mounts to, because a lot of times you'll get cracks along here that you might have to re-support, but this one actually looks okay. I don't see any cracks or any damage, even though this unit is I don't know, 16, 17 years old. Still looks pretty solid. All right, let's get this thing broke down. We'll get that old stuff out of there and our new stuff on. All right, first we're gonna get some WD-40 on here because I do have to get that pulley off, and I just have to unbolt that bracket and the bracket underneath there and get those out of the way. And this shouldn't be too bad getting that out of there. So all right, I'm gonna also WD these bolts here. They got a lot of grease on them, but just to make stuff easier. All right, Our WD's been sitting on there for a few minutes now, and the first thing we want to do is get this keyway out of there. So I've already got it loose a little bit. Sometimes these can be a pain in the ass to get out, but we're going to try to grab them with our linemans and pull it right out. So let's see if it'll come out easy. You also don't want to mess this up. Good, that one came right out. So you don't want to booger these up, because I don't have a new key and I need to reuse this one. So this one's still in good shape. We'll make sure it's clean when we put it back on. Now that shaft, that pulley should come off this shaft relatively easy. So if it doesn't, now it's not stuck in one place now. If we have to, we can spin it, rock it back and forth to get it out. So we're gonna do that right now. All right, that pulley came off pretty easy since we had it greased up and got the keyway out. Sometimes, like I said, those keyways can be really difficult to get out, but this one wasn't that bad. All right, next thing we're gonna do, we're gonna unbolt the pellet block bearing from here, and we're gonna unbolt here so we can take this bracket here off. We're gonna do that on both sides. One thing I wanna mention before we go any further, we wanna take notice of the direction of our blower wheel here. I know it seems kind of common sense, but it is not that difficult to put these in backwards or upside down. So our vanes are turning this way, and I think we had something, yeah, we have a belt 68 up there. So we just want to make notice of which way our blower wheel is, so we can make sure we put this back the same way. Like I said, if we put that in upside down, the wheel will turn upside down, and then we're in big trouble. We got to take everything back apart and flip it. So, like I said, just take notice of which way it's in there whenever you do one of these. All right, so we don't have to take this bracket all the way off. We just had to take all the screws out around there, and then this will lift right up off. Set that off to the side, and then we have a clear view at our wheel now. So now we're going to flip it over. We're going to unbolt the bracket on the other side, the bracket that holds the pellet block bearing on. And then we shouldn't have to take this bottom off, because with the bearing unbolted, we should be able to pull everything right out. So we're going to do that right now. I hit these guys with a little bit more WD. I've already got them broke free, but they're pretty tight. It's looser than I thought. She is. Took the whole thing out. Both bearings and the wheel and the shaft all come out, because these are the 4 pieces we're going to replace. All right, here's our new parts. New wheel, new shaft, 2 new bearings. All right, guys, we're putting our lower pellet block bearing in now. I just wanted to give you guys an up close of the pellet block bearing. So here it is here. This side is going to take our clamp, which is right here, and we want to mount this on our lower one down. So you'll see here it's down, so our shaft will go through here like this, like that, and then our bracket here, or our clamp, will go around this, and it's got a little Allen set screw on it, and we'll tighten that down and it'll hold it in place. So we're not going to tighten it down until everything's set right, because once it's tightened down, you really can't move it. You could always loosen it back up, but you really want to just tighten it down one time. All right, so we got our new lower pellet block bearing in place, and we're going to go ahead and tighten those bolts down now. We're going to flip this over, and we're going to set our wheel. We're just going to set our wheel for now. We're not going to put the shaft in. sure our wheel is going in the right direction. And I'll confirm that here in 1 minute. So we got our wheel set. Just confirm our wheel is going to be going in the proper direction. So our fan is going to be turning this way, and our vane should be in the right direction. All right, now that that's set, we're going to get all this tape and stuff off of this shaft and make sure that's good and clean so it can slide through the blower wheel and the bearings properly. So I'm going to get all that off right now. All right, we got our tape and all off of our shaft. It's not a horrible idea just to take a piece of emery cloth and clean it up. All right, so this side here with the groove in it is going to be our top, because that's where our pulley goes. So our keyway goes in this slot and our pulley will go up here. So this side is our bottom. So that's the side we're going to feed through the blower wheel into the lower bearing. All right, guys, we're going to go ahead and put our new shaft in now. We're going to make sure that drops into our new bearing. Let's flip this back over. And we'll check on our old one how far that went through. It looks like it went through just about 1/4 of an inch, so we'll make sure that that's positioned right when we go to tighten it down. All right, next we're going to take our top and put that on. All right, this goes just like this. All right, now we're going to put our other bearing on. All right, all that's set. All right, so now we're actually going to put our whole blower assembly back together. We're going to put all the screws in it so everything's lined up, and then we're going to go ahead and tighten everything down. We're going to just get a couple screws started here, and that should bring everything together and line it all up. All right. Now our top's back on. Our bearings are mounted in place. Now we can just make sure everything's set properly. We'll put it on its side to do that so we can slide everything back and forth. All right, so we're going to want to come this way a little bit. All right, that looks good there. We only had about 1/4 of an inch out on the old one, so that's what we're going to do with the new one. All right, we got our new clamp here. We're going to put that on the bottom one first. All right, we got that tightened down. We're about to tighten down our wheel on our shaft once we make sure it's set properly, and it looks like it is. All right, we're going to get our adjustable. Tighten this shaft down. All right, we got our bearings tightened down. That's all good and tight, so now we're going to put our pulley back on. Keyway in place. And then our pulley. Alright, I slipped out of there, but it's pretty tight. Yeah, that's tight. Alright, And there we have it. Our blower wheel is back assembled. Let's make sure it spins free. It does. All right, we're gonna put this thing back in. All right, let me show you guys. See, it's very difficult to do this when you're by yourself. So let me show you guys what I've done. I've gotten the bottom lined up and got a couple screws started. So that way the bottom will be supported, and all I have to do is tip it up and then put a screw in the top, and then it'll hold it there. Then I can get the rest of my screws in. So you got to figure out how to work by yourself sometimes, guys. You know, this would have been a lot easier with two guys, but you got to do what you got to do when you're by yourself. And bam, we got her set now. We got a few screws in her. We're going to go ahead and put the rest of the screws in there and move on to the next step. All right, we got all our screws back in, up the sides, down the bottom. All right, we got our wires fed back through here. I know I had to cut this. I'm gonna straighten that up a little bit. I'm not gonna leave that like that, and I'll probably put something in there to protect those wires. I hate having to do that, but you know, it is what it is. All right, and then we're almost ready to put our motor back on, which is gonna be a little more challenging than putting the wheel on, because I'm not sure how I'm gonna support it and put it and get my bolts tightened down, but we're gonna figure it out. Once I figure it out, I'm gonna show you how I did it. All right, guys, I tried this a couple different ways. The motor's just too damn heavy for me to get it up there, and there's nothing to set it on, nothing to do that. So I'm just gonna pull the motor. I'm gonna pull the motor off, mount the bracket, and then put the motor back on. See these bolts here? They're welded. They are welded to the back side, so it'll be a lot easier to set the motor there than it would be to set the whole thing and get bolts started. So I'm gonna have to pull the motor off, mount the bracket, and then put the motor back on. Was hoping I could do it all just with it all connected, but this motor's just too heavy. I mean, I'm thinking this motor's at least, with the motor and bracket, it's gotta be at least 100 pounds. So, I mean, that's just hard to do. So, all right, taking the motor off. Got our bracket mounted, or our motor off, and our bracket mounted. So now we have actually something to throw our motor on there with. So we're gonna do that next. Got our motor mounted back on there. We're just gonna tighten the bolts down now. And this ended up being a whole lot easier than trying to mount it all at once. Man, that motor's heavy. I should have knew it was heavy, but it was really heavy. All right, we're gonna get these tightened down, and we'll go on to the next step. All my bolts are in and everything is tightened down. We're gonna wire it back up. I didn't cut these, somebody had cut these before me, so that's just where I unwired it at. So we're gonna wire this back up. Gonna put the belt on, gonna double check some stuff, make sure everything's good. And we should be ready to power this thing up soon. We're gonna check the levels of these, because just looking at these pulleys right now, it looks like this one is higher than this one. But we're gonna put a level on it and see. All right, so we got our level on here and it's actually straight. I made no adjustments to this, and the level doesn't lie. I thought this side might have been up a little bit higher, but it's not. So it looks like we're in good shape. We'll see how the belt looks when it gets on it. I think we're good there. All right, got our belt on. We got all our fasteners in place. We have our zip ties, all our wires zip tied. I put a piece of Armaflex around these wires so this jagged metal wouldn't eat into them. Not the best situation, but I had to do what I had to do. Everything else looks pretty good. So I think we're getting ready to fire this thing up and see how this blower works. All right, here we go. We have our G circuit jumped out. We're gonna throw power. I gotta tighten that belt up a little bit. Shut her back down and tighten that belt up. All right, to make adjustments to our belt here, we wanna loosen up these 4 bolts, 1, 2, and then the two on the bottom, which I've already done. And then this is our adjustment bolt here. So we want to go a little bit tighter. So we're going to tighten this bolt right up here. Make sure these are loose, which somebody've already left them loose, but this is how we're gonna tighten it. All right, that looks better. All right, let's get our panels back on and we're gonna check the amp draw. We're gonna check the amp draw on this motor and make sure we're not over amping. All right, we're just about to check amp draws here, but I wanted to shut it down and look at the data plate on this motor. So on this motor, our amps for 208, 230 is 13.5. Now we are 460 volts. Matter of fact, I think we're really about 490 here, but between 380 and 460, we can be, what does that say? Between 7.3 and 6.75. So at 460 volts, this motor is rated at 6.75 amps. Now, it also has a service factor of 1.15, and that is a percentage. So what that's telling us is that this motor can run 15% higher than that 6.75 for a short period. If you start going over 15% of that 6.75, the motor will go out on a thermal overload. So we want to make sure we're at 6.75. If we're right around there, we can't be much higher than that, preferably below that. So we're going to start it up and we're going to check our amp draw. All right, we got the motor started back up now and we want to check our amp draw here. So it looks like we're pulling 5.8, almost 5.9 amps on that leg. About the same thing on that leg. A little bit lower on that leg. All right, so it looks like our amp draw, we're gonna call that 5.9. So that is well below what our rating is. So we're in good shape here. If we're lower than that, that's good. All right, looks like we are in good shape with this motor. The unit sure does rattle around a lot, but it's an old unit, and you can see here the bolts are missing out of some stuff, and I would have really loved to see them replace this unit, but they just built that addition right there, and with that addition came, I don't know, about 15 new air conditioners. So I'm assuming they didn't really have the budget to replace this guy right now. So we're doing what we can do to keep them going. Now let's see if we can stop this thing from rattling a little bit, and then we'll put all the panels back on and we'll get up out of here. All right, we're just getting cleaned up here. So guys, pick up your little bits of wire. It makes a difference, especially up here on a roof. It has nowhere to go. So, and on residential units, it just looks better after you pick up your mess. All these little bits of wire and stuff. Just make sure you pick it all up, guys. Clean up after yourself. Your customers will appreciate it. All right, there we have it, guys. We're almost packed up here. We're gonna get all our stuff together and get the hell up out of here. All right, guys, we just finished up with that blower wheel there. Went pretty smooth. I think it went pretty smooth, all things considering. I probably could have done a little bit better with a helper mounting that motor back, but I mean, what did it take me? An extra 30 minutes maybe working by myself. So not a big deal. But we got it back in, we got it adjusted the way it's supposed to be, and we got it started back up. We got out of there. So a pretty decent job. All right, guys, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. I'm off to the next one.